Hello, welcome back to another episode of Mums on a Mission with Julie Hatch. I am your host, Julie Hatch, and this is another episode of my podcast for parents, by a parent, all about kids and parents and parenting. So, welcome back to this episode. And I am doing a solo episode this time. We're about 26 episodes into this podcast adventure. And so I decided I was going to pipe in and just do a quick solo episode. No guests interviewed today. That'll be coming more next week and the week after that. So I sort of am recapping. I've been looking back over the episodes that the people that I've interviewed and the episodes that I've done so far, and going back to the trailer where which really set the tone for the whole thing, in that. I've seen three things that have made me step up and write a book and do this podcast and sort of speak up for parents and for kids. And that is that parents are really stressed these days. Kids are really super stressed these days, which is a shame. And number three, that we as parents are getting it pretty much only part right. We're providing a lot of great stuff for our kids. We're doing the best we can, no doubt. But that we're missing one really important thing, and that is to connect with a child's inner essence, their soul, their spirit, what makes them who they are. And so my goal is to try to help parents to figure out how to connect to their kids at a more soul level, at their level of their essence, which is the part of them that really enlivens them and makes them thrive and makes them really thrilled with life, when we can tap into that inner essence and find out what it is that makes it tick and what makes it light up and enliven. And that takes connection, takes conscious connection with our kids, and really paying attention to and listening to our kids, letting them know that they matter, that we hear them, and that we want to hear them, and that it's not that they need to sit down and be quiet like it was generations ago. And a lot of the guests so far, I think have alluded to this, from living in an environment with ADHD to preventing eating disorders, to helping your child get into college, whatever it is around parenting, and more guests coming with all kinds of great topics. But a lot of it comes down to the common denominator is figuring out your child's true essence. What makes them tick? What makes them happy? Where is their authenticity that can be celebrated and nourished? And they all the different topics come down to that really understanding where your child is coming from and help them from that place where they're coming from. And part of this also is the environment that we provide for our kids. And I really believe that the home environment in the first, well, always, but certainly in the first 5, 6, 7 years of a child's life are the most important years and the most important environment setting that they're in, because it leaves an imprint. It's indelible, and it's going to follow them through life. Those first few years experiences are just hardwired, and even though we don't even remember our early life experiences, they're hardwired into us, and it takes a lot of work to change any of the damage that gets done in that time. So we want to do the best that we can for our kids in those first few years, first 6, 7 years, I would say. So we want to provide them with a good environment. And what is a good environment? Well, obviously, unconditional love, attention, making sure that they know that they matter and that we're listening to them. Those are all crucial components to having a good environment. And then taking it a step further and connecting with your child in a way that you understand them. You understand what their essence is all about. And I have gone through them from the traditional Chinese medicine standpoint, the 5 elements. If your child falls under the 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. That gives you a clue as to what makes them tick and what makes them feel good about life and about themselves. And so, for instance, following along that way, maybe your child wants more time with one of the parents, with you or your spouse or a primary caretaker. Maybe they need more time connecting with that person and feeling safe with that person. Or maybe your child needs more independence and wants to get a step away from home a little bit and go out and test the waters with in the neighborhood, or at school or out in the world. So maybe you've got a really at home, safe and secure child, or one that wants to be out in the world, feeding their independence. Maybe you have one that wants to have a creative outlet and needs to be able to have time to be creative. And maybe you have a child who's by the numbers, by the book, by the rules, and is not creative. Whatever it is, it's all fine. Maybe you have a child that wants to spend more time with their friends, or maybe you have a child that wants to spend less time with friends and at home. So I've talked about this already with the element types. And so it's really important to, if not identify their element type, then at least understand where they're coming from and what makes them navigate their way through the world, what makes them thrive, what makes them feel really good. And there's nothing is good or bad. There is no good or bad about their inner essence. Even it may not be exactly what you were looking for or hoping for, but it's not good or bad. It just is, and it needs to be nourished and celebrated. And it's not, every child is different. You can have a bunch of different kids in the household, and they all have different needs and I'm not going to say desires, but needs to nourish their soul, to nourish their inner spirit and their essence. So we just want to be aware of that and provide them with what they need. And again, I'm going to go back to a quote by Wendy Mogul from her book Blessings of a Skinned Knee. That, this has just stuck with me for years and years, that if you think of your child as a seed in a bag of wildflower seeds, you don't know what seed you're picking out, what the seed's going to look like, or what, you don't know anything about the seed, or what the outcome is going to be. But you take that seed and you plant it in fertile soil, and you water it, and you provide it with sunlight, and you pull the weeds from every so often, and eventually you're going to have a flower emerge, a wildflower emerge, and you can say, wow, there's the flower. So that's what we want to do with our kids. We want to water them and feed them and nourish them with what it is that they need to grow and thrive. And then whatever emerges in adulthood, if they've been fed and watered well, will be exactly right. It'll be just the way that they're supposed to be. So just take that seed, water it, nourish it, and applaud it when it grows up. Okay. Now I'd like to just take a second to introduce the launch of my book that I have coming out. It's going to be coming out in a couple of days. On February 24th is its launch on Amazon. And the name of my book is A Parenting Revolution for Higher Evolution: Raising Resilient, Responsible, Compassionate Kids from the Inside Out. And that's a mouthful, but the book is a bit of a conglomeration of what I say in this podcast. And raising kids from the inside out comes from traditional Chinese medicine, and it comes from parenting to the child's inner self more than the outer self. You parent to the inner self, you parent to their soul, their essence, their core, who they are, their element type. If you parent to that, then the outside will naturally flourish, just like that wildflower. You just need to feed it, feed that inner self first and with what they need, and the outside will just naturally fall into place and flourish. So I'm going to just read a couple of little summarizations, I guess, of what the book is. And essentially the book is all about nourishing our little wildflowers and how to figure out what your child needs, what works best for them in navigating their growing up. This means parenting to your child's inner essence, the juice of what makes them who they are and how they are. When you parent a child's inner essence, miracles happen. And that's really true. When you parent to your child's inner essence, things flow, things are easy, and miracles come from that. When you don't recognize what your child needs, what their inner essence is, or you try to parent them opposite or not in alignment with that, that's when struggle and conflict come in. The parenting revolution that I write about is a shift in the parenting paradigm, a shift away from high pressure, overachieving, anxious, materialistic, self centered way of living to a more authentic, heart centered way of living with a focus on their inner essence. So it's a shift of paradigm. We've all been parented one way, and I'm trying to hope that people see that we can stop parenting that way, if it wasn't working, if it's not working, and to a more heart-centered, soul-based, and inner essence-based parenting. What I see around me is both kids and adults looking to the external world for the answers to their problems. More money, a nice car, more friends on Facebook, a better spouse, a better body, on and on and on. And to a more serious end, using drugs and alcohol, all to make us feel better about ourselves and feel better from influences from the external world. But none of these things that I just listed will bring long time lasting true happiness with one's life. Rather, the source of happiness has to come from within. It's sort of such an old saying, but it's so true. Lasting happiness and strength and sustainability has to come from within. The stuff outside does not last. It's gone with an illness or with a breakup or with a pandemic, or all the external stuff can be gone just like that. But when things come from within, that's the stuff that's going to stick around and be strong and true throughout our lives. Our own and our kids' answers to whatever they're seeking can only come from within, which means that we need to be tuned into their inner essence to know what they need to feel good about themselves and about their lives. And we need to then help them tune into their inner essence so that they can identify for themselves what they need. There's no sustainability or strength in living life to impress others with money, possessions, vacations, whatever it is that we think makes us look good to others. And in kids, this is super important because there's no sustainability or strength in life when they are living their lives to please or impress others, which is what kids do. They often do things to please and impress their parents or their teachers, which in and of itself isn't bad. That's a good thing if they want to please, but only if it comes from within, if they have a real desire to act the way that they are acting. We want them to be living in alignment with their inner essence, which is what drives them and enlivens them, their inner essence, their soul. What makes them feel great, what makes their self-worth swell, all comes from within. So if we want to build confidence and resilience and a positive feeling of self-worth, we need to nourish that inner essence, because that's where their self-worth comes from. In my book, I use a quote from another book called The Little Prince, and the quote is very simple, and it goes, "All that is essential is invisible," which is important in our kids. So what that is saying is that what is important in our kids, all that is essential, what is important in our kids is invisible. We can't see it. We can't see their inner essence and their soul and what's at the core. But that is what is most important and what is essential. So what is essential is invisible. Very simple, but I think that says a lot. So I'm going to finish up by really commending all the parents out there. It is a very selfless job. It is, as I have said many times, the most important job. It's a challenging job. It brings out the worst in us and it brings out the best in us. And the great days, the really things feel so good because things are going so well as part of parenting, and the horrific days that you just cannot wait to get into bed at the end of the day as part of parenting. It's all part of parenting, and it's a very selfless job. And I congratulate and commend anybody who's taken it on. And if you are a parent, you have to believe that you're doing a good job. The the fact that you're doing it all is huge. So you need to trust that you are doing it right. You trust that you're doing the best that you possibly can. Trust your intuition and believe that you got it, that you are doing the best you can and you have this parenting thing down. And take a look at my book and get a little more inspiration about life as a parent and how to help out with raising a new generation of kids that are less self-centered, less depressed, less anxious, and more authentic, more confident, and making the world a better place. So to learn more about my book or to pre-order a copy, you can go to my website, juliephillipshatch.com, or you can go to Amazon and search for A Parenting Revolution for Higher Evolution, or you can search for Julie Phillips Hatch. So it's coming out February 24th in just a couple of days. You can pre-order anytime. And I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that you take a look at it and that you enjoy it. And I look forward to seeing you on some more podcasts. I will be back next week with another guest, and we'll keep going forward talking about how we can help our kids and ourselves as parents get through all this. It's a good thing. You know, we're all doing a good job. We're doing as best we can. And the bottom line is to have fun with it, not take it too seriously, not get bogged down with things that are going wrong, but trust your intuition, go with what feels right, listen to your child, go with what feels right with them, and enjoy it. All right, thanks. I'll see you next week.